strategy of making it go. The property taxes, if you can't make enough money to come up with the property taxes in addition to whatever you're trying to fund to get your business started. Starting a business is not easy. It requires you to make a little bit of money, to invest a little bit of money, and when we're funding massive, I guess it's a bureaucracy, planning what to do with the money that we're going to send up to the state and things like that, it kind of gets in the way of starting a business. I mean, you've already got a place where you want to do business, you've got something you want to do, and if you cannot see clear to getting a business off the ground with the tax rates the way they are, you look at the history, you see they're going up, and you kind of go, huh, there's nothing for me to do but maybe work for the state and get some of the tax money instead of...
That's socialism.
Anyway.
That's called socialism.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. D-A-U-G, Sharo, S-H-A-R-O. Tony Nelson, followed by Shelley Kennedy.
Good evening. My name is Tony Nelson. I'm a professor at Rutgers. I've been there for 40 years. I am chairman of a department called Planning, Policy, and Public Health. And just as a kind of a background, I've now been here close to 40 years, and I've seen New Jersey change rather radically. New Jersey once had vibrant towns, productive farmlands, and that's changed over time. And now we're into a state of transition, and economically, socially, politically. So now we're coming up with a state plan, which we've tried to do state plans before to, I don't think, very much success. So what I simply want to do is present you a position paper or a paper that was done at Rutgers that said, how could we possibly develop in such a way that we allow the largest number of people the maximum amount of freedom in terms of future capabilities? And one of those was pretty simple. There's 251 train stations in the state of New Jersey. There's over 32,000 bus stops. But take the bus stops out. There's 251 train stations. So what we did is used all our advanced techniques to try to find out how much land there was within a 5 to 10 minute walk of all the train stations in New Jersey that once were really viable cities. And the conclusion of it is truly simple. That area, within a 10-minute walk of the 251 train stations, only developing a small portion of that land, could absorb all the growth in the state of New Jersey, projected growth in the state of New Jersey for the next 100 years, without ever having to touch another piece of farmland, to actually ever have to talk about any development in any other single area. Now the question starts to be, how did all that land remain so undeveloped and turn to be such an essential mess in our cities for so long? So now you got a strategic plan, and I'm simply here to say, listen, we've done the research. I'd like to give you this position paper, which is called Enhancing the Opportunity for a Healthy, Prosperous Future for New Jersey. That I think one could really talk about focusing growth in a more sustainable way, which the younger generations are talking about, and still yet allow every one of these municipalities the largest conceivable amount of freedom to be able to develop however they want, whenever they want. So that's
Thank you. Shelley? And then Luis Wilson is up after Shelley.
Thank you. We're here to talk about our state plan. I'm here to say that we have too many. We have a state plan. We have county plans. We have regional plans. We have municipal plans. We have water plans. We have sewer plans. We have land use plans. We have so many plans, people waiting to just tell us what to do with our lives, our property, where to work. What's preferred investment? What do you mean by investment? What are you investing? My money is what you're investing. Do I have a say in that investment? I don't feel like I have a say in that investment. No, I don't. So I'm here to pose a set of rhetorical questions, which I don't expect an answer to presently, but know who are these other stakeholders and how do they have any stake in my property? Do they own the property? Do they have any title to it? Then they're not stakeholders, according to the way I consider having a stake in my property. Why are we still using 12-year-old data on this plan? Will you revise the plan and its assumptions of growth and global warming, since the last 12 years' data show global warming didn't actually happen, and it shows that our state lost a congressional district in our population. So, where's the growth? Where's the growth that this plan is planning for? That's what I'd like to know. Did you know that public-private partnerships are a form of fascism? Why does this plan support public-private partnerships and fascism? Who came up with the Garden State goals? I don't agree with all of them, and why isn't one of them protect private property rights? Did you know that regional planning, as supported by this plan, can be used to form unaccountable bureaucracies that effectively supplant local control or development? Despite all the fancy words and flowery language we've heard, this is a way to supplant your local governance. The plan does nothing to resolve or curtail regionalization. It's already happening. In fact, it exacerbates this by encouraging more regionalization. Where in the plan are the free market solutions to our state's problems? All it talks about is public investment, public investment, public investment, when we all know the private sector really creates jobs, not the government.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Amen. Where's the state's plan for that?
Why are the citizens of New Jersey the last to be asked in this process for our input? Why are we going by 8-year-old data from meetings held long ago for which we currently have no records or transcripts, even though they were open public meetings? Why is the focus on public money expenditure? What return on my forced investment is the target? Has anyone shown that there is actually any demonstrable positive return on this kind of forced public investment? If not, then why does the plan assume there will be? Please define the acceptable ROI over 5 years, 3 years, etc. When will the transcripts of these meetings be posted? Why aren't these meetings being recorded to create a transparent public record of the proceedings as you go? Why is there not a dial-in? Why aren't these live streamed on YouTube or Ustream to get the most public input and participation possible? We have a state of 9 million people. We have, if 1,200 people attend these 6 meetings, 1,200, then you know what percent of the population is actually represented? 0.013% out of 9 million. Is that acceptable?
No.
Is that valid? No. I call into question the entire validity of this public input process. What suggestions for changes have already been received, and why haven't these been posted on the website? How are we supposed to know what's already been suggested? How can we comment in any kind of salient manner when we don't even know what people have said before? Why are you only allowing 1 5-minute comment per person? Isn't there free speech still in this country? Can't we talk about anything else other than the plan if we so choose? If you want to talk about the plan, fine. If you don't, fine. Why can't we comment on what we want to? And oh, by the way, if you want to shout out, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me while I'm talking, please feel free to do so. You don't offend me one bit.
Say it.
What a Delphi meeting is, that it is a way to force or fake consensus around a predetermined outcome, and that these 6 meetings all follow that process. Can you understand now why the people are outraged over this? Thank you.
Louise?
Hi. My name is Louise Wilson. I'm not going to be anywhere near as entertaining as the previous speaker. Do I need the mic? Thanks anyway. I live in Skillman, New Jersey, which is about 40 miles northwest of here. I've served in public office, 10 years as an elected official and 8 years on my planning board. I don't say that to make you think I have some sort of standing. I say it sort of in the spirit of an AA meeting. I'm not here on behalf of any particular organization, but purely as a citizen expressing my personal opinions. I appreciate and I applaud what you're trying to achieve with this plan. Targeted economic growth, simplification or elimination of red tape, coordination of state agency investments and objectives. None of these things is easy, and over the years a lot of worthy goals have gotten harder and harder to achieve, partly because of complicated rules and processes. That said, I dearly hope that the State Planning Commission will not adopt a plan that does away with the rule book and sets up pretty much a case-by-case decision-making process. Most people in New Jersey want intelligent planning and growth, and most businesses, in my experience, want predictability and intelligent planning and growth. We all want to protect public health and our precious natural resources, and you don't protect either in the absence of clear guidelines, some basic rules of the road, and a system of checks and balances. I believe it's imperative that environmental protections and capacity constraints, and by that I mean drinking water systems, wastewater treatment capacity, road capacity, are given the same weight in the plan as growth objectives. I think the plan should prohibit new sewer service in areas that are environmentally fragile and should reflect a strong and clear commitment, reinforced with meaningful incentives and disincentives to foster redevelopment, not just in our cities, but in the older suburbs and in the suburban areas that have pseudo downtowns that need rework. The whole process of writing and rewriting the plan is a thankless and I'm sure painful task. But what you're doing is worthwhile. And planning is just basic common sense. I mean, when done well, you get higher property values, higher quality of life. When done poorly or not at all, and believe me, I know this from places I've lived in New Jersey and elsewhere in the country, you get more flooding, you get more traffic, a lot of times you get even higher taxes than you would otherwise have. And most importantly, good planning gives people choices. Good places to live out in the country if that's what you prefer, or in the suburbs, or in small towns or big towns or cities. And on a personal level, that is what I want, is choices. I'm a typical baby boomer with a newly empty nest. I grew up in the sticks, I loved that. I spent my early 20s in a city, I loved that too. After that I moved to the suburbs. Yep, I love the suburbs. But the next time I move, I want to go to a place where I can walk to the store, walk to the park, walk to the train station, get to a Yankee game without paying $15 in tolls and $40 for parking. And there are a lot of people like me looking for that lifestyle. We don't have enough options for that right now that are affordable. So I appreciate your emphasis on revitalizing boroughs and towns and cities that have train service. And I hope the final plan will be used to drive transportation infrastructure investments, which we need. I know you want me to wrap up. Let me just say, please, one more thing. On the topic of the S word, sustainability. Sustainable growth was defined a long time ago as growth that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And whether your family came over on the Mayflower, on slave ships, fled the Nazis or Mao Zedong, or arrived last year to build a better life in the land of liberty, meeting the needs of the present while laying a foundation for our kids to live an even better life is as American as apple pie. It is not a land grab. It is not an assault on personal freedoms.
Thank you.
And intelligent people can differ on how best to pursue that goal of intelligent, sustainable growth, but it must continue to be the overarching goal of state planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Mike Pizarro is up after Mr. Tittle.
Thank you. Jeff Tittle, Director, New Jersey Sierra Club. And I just wanted to start out to say that, where's my friend? I just want to start out to say that in 1900, my great-grandfather had a farm in Newark. And that farm was where South Orange Avenue and the Garden State Parkway is today. And my grandmother made him sell it because she was tired of living in the country and she wanted electricity and running water and everything else. And I think we've come a long way in that, last 100 years. But unfortunately, in New Jersey, what we have seen is that we are #1 in the country in, unfortunately, air pollution. Not one of our counties meets ground level ozone standards. We're #1 in the country in the miles of streams that are considered impaired as a percentage of the state. We're #1 in the country in the loss of open space to development. It was about 1% a year. And we're #1 in property taxes. We're also #1 in vehicle miles traveled because of all the traffic jams. And that's a direct result of bad land use policies. The state plan is supposed to be a guide plan to help make decisions better so that we can figure out where to put our resources and how we can do things to help make our cities more viable, our farmland areas more viable, help our small communities grow and prosper, help people make a choice in life whether they want to live in rural areas or urban areas or suburban or somewhere in between. Unfortunately, this strategic plan does none of that. Our concern is that the strategic plan is not based on science, is not based on capacity analysis where growth can and should go. It's not based on where we have existing infrastructure because it's really not in there. And the concern that I have is when you look at some of the things that we have achieved with protection in the highlands and the pinelands, in this plan, some of those areas can get targeted for growth. Centers in the highlands, existing community areas, places in the pinelands. And the concern that we have is that the economic growth policies of this plan can trump environmental protections and can be used to rationalize or justify running sewers into environmentally sensitive areas or shifting development away from areas with infrastructure to areas that are now designated growth areas because it's so vague you can designate anything. A half a mile from a railroad track, which I call the Alice's restaurant line, a half a mile from an interchange on a highway, a half a mile from a college. We have state colleges, by the way, in state, and we have a county college in the middle of a park. So now we can designate growth areas almost anywhere, and that's the concern. We have something called innovative, clusters, and that sounds great. Let's help pharmaceutical industry. Let's help, graphic design, whatever it is. But it's so vague and so amorphous that how big is that cluster going to be, and how many lands and properties are we going to trump that? And the concern that we have is that we as the taxpayers are going to be paying for that growth, whether it's running a sewer line into a rural area for some politically connected developer that we all have to pay for, or putting $450 million into a Xanadu. And so for us, we believe that we have to have a state plan that actually functions, has public input, and actually protects the environment and is based on science and natural resources with a real capacity analysis. And this, unfortunately, does not do that. We are also very much concerned that areas in need development also become priority growth and expenditure areas. And those are areas where eminent domain can be used, and we oppose Kilo, and we think that's an abuse that needs to be resolved in the state, and we have not done it because our legislature has not had the backbone to actually stand up to it. We are concerned, again, that with this plan, we will not do the wise thing. We will end up doing the political thing. And that's why you need clear standards. That's why you need to get clear science. In fact, going back to the 2002 map, that's based on 1986 data. Our concern is that using Planning Area 1, well, that includes Rumson, Alpine, and Shore Hills as priority investment areas. They don't need our money. There are plenty of places and plenty of communities that do. And so for us, we think that this plan is actually a step backwards. We think that there are some in the audience who have mentioned at other hearings Agenda 21. We think this is more about Century 21 than Agenda 21. This is more about taking care of politically connected development and developers than it is about channeling growth to the appropriate places. I'm just going to end with one point, and I'm going to read a quote. It says, we must work to protect the Appalachian Highlands, clean up the Passaic River, prevent flooding along the Raritan, We must work to save the 2 million acres of farmland in the state. We must ensure that our cities are livable communities where we can educate people and we can reduce pollution. We must make sure that our small towns and rural areas can continue economic growth, and we must need to balance that growth with preservation. I'm quoting from, and I'll read the next line. This is the guide of the soon-to-be implemented 1936 state plan.
Wow.
We've done planning in this state for a long time, but we need real commitment, real backing.